AMD just reported their earnings and the stock is down by about 8%. It's currently trading at about $109. They beat the revenue target and met the earnings per share estimates. As you can see on the screen, the expected revenue was 7.53 billion and they made 7.66 billion. The EPS was $1.09 and they achieved the same. And with respect to the financial outlook, they're guiding for 7.1 billion plus minus 300 million for Q1 of 2025 and gross margin in the order of 54%. The stock is down mainly due to the data center revenue miss. The revenue grew by 69% year over year to $3.9 billion, but fell short of the 4.1 billion estimate that was expected. And even for the next quarter, the CEO is expecting 7% sequential drop, and that has upset the investors, and the stock has dropped. And we do know that Nvidia already dominates with 80% plus market share, and that's limiting AMD's growth. In addition, there's also rising competition with Microsoft, Meta, and others developing their own custom AI chips. Let's look at the positives versus negatives. Positives: Q4 revenue reached 7.7 billion, and that's a 24% year over year increase. Data center segment revenue surged to $12.6 billion, nearly doubling compared to the previous year. This is very impressive on its own, but compared to Nvidia's growth of like 400 plus percentage, this isn't that impressive. The client segment achieved a record $2.3 billion of revenue, marking 58% year over year growth. And the operating income non-GAAP rose 43% year over year to 2 billion in Q4. Gross margin improved to 54%, up from 51% in the previous year. I've mentioned a few times in my previous videos that AMD has margin problems, so it seems like they're working on it by cutting the operating expenses. Let's look at the negatives. The gaming segment revenue dropped by 59% year over year. In my previous videos, I mentioned that the gaming segment is pretty much dead. That's why I did not consider them in the valuation. And embedded segment revenue fell 13% year over year, but it is expected to recover later this year or next year. The GAAP net income declined by 28% year over year to 482 million in Q4, and GAAP diluted EPS decreased 29% year over year to $0.29 in Q4. So these are the positives and negatives. So is this a buy at $109? If you have a long-term horizon, that's 5 years out. I'm showing the valuation on the screen. I've given the details of this valuation in my previous videos, so please check those videos out. I'm not going to explain this in too much detail. I'm estimating $221 stock price. Currently, it's at $109, so that's a 5-year gain of 103%. AMD's data center revenue is still growing. It's just not as much as people are expecting, because we are looking at Nvidia's growth and thinking that other companies should also follow that impressive suit, but that's not possible. And AMD's client segment is currently not growing as much, but it's expected to recover once the PC sales pick up. And their embedded sector that came to them with Xilinx acquisition, it's expected to recover in the coming years, and we do know its operating margins are excellent. So long term, AMD is going to do just fine, and $221 is my price target. And based on the $109 current price, I think it's a buy to get a double in 5 years. In full disclosure, I do own AMD shares at an average price of about $60, but I'll not be adding at this price. I want to clarify, this is not financial advice. I'm not qualified to give financial advice. So even though I'm saying that it can double in 5 years, it may not happen. So please don't take this as financial advice. I'm not qualified. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks so much for watching.